Hello, my name is Kristina Vack. I'm the Director of Career Services at CALS, and I'm here to present for BSE 308 resumes specifically for BSE students. So before we get started, as I mentioned, I'm the Director of Career Services. I'm not sure how many of you have interacted with Career Services before on campus, but I thought I'd tell a little bit about what it is. So we provide advising and then connections to students. So advising includes career exploration, job internship co-op stuff, interviewing, resume cover letters, and then we also help students with offer negotiations. If you're thinking about graduate school, that's also something that we help students with. And something you should know about us is you can use us up to 2 years after you graduate. We also offer connections. So maybe if some of you have seen our Connector series, so that's where we bring alumni here to campus from different companies around the country to talk to students about what it means to work in those industries. So we interact a lot with alumni, we have events on campus, and then we're also part of the large career fair that is here on campus that many probably of you have gone to. Okay, so first and foremost, what is a resume? So a resume, first and foremost, is a marketing tool. It helps you get into the interview seat. And because of that, since it is a marketing tool and it is a tool to get you to that interview, it's about your experiences, but it's also about the position that you are applying for. So it's a little bit of both in that resume. And we're going to talk about how to make sure you get that across in your document. But first, before we talk about all the nuts and bolts about a resume, first we're going to talk about how employers process resumes, because that has really changed over the last 5 years, especially after COVID. So typically, the first thing that looks at your resume is an applicant tracking system. Most employers that have more than 50 employees now use some kind of applicant tracking system. And because of that, keywords are really important to getting a human to see your resume. So basically what it is, it's a computer algorithm that will look at your resume and count out how many times that you have certain keywords. And if you have the amount of keywords that they want, then they send it to a recruiter to look at your resume. So when you're like, okay, so keywords seem really important, and they really are. So what are they specifically? Keywords are specific words or phrases that highlight the skills, experiences, and qualifications that an employer is looking for. And you can find what those are right from the position description. So we want to make sure that your resume has those keywords so that you get into through that applicant tracking system. A really nice thing about current landscape is you can use generative AI to help you find keywords that are on a position description. So you know what are the keywords that you need to put into your resume. So we generally recommend that students use Microsoft Copilot. The university has bought Copilot. And so you have a really great, safer option there, but also ChatGPT is fine. So here's a prompt that you can enter. I am applying for this position, and then you copy and paste the position description and say, what keyword should I make sure I use in my application materials? And then once you get that, you want to make sure you're using as many keywords as possible so that your resume will get through that applicant tracking system. And we actually have no idea what are the specific keywords that the recruiter is using. So as many as you can get in there is really important. But with that being said, you want to make sure it's only keywords that are true to your experience, and so it's relevant, so you're not like lying to an employer. So here's an example of a position that I found on Handshake. It's an assistant civil environmental engineer in Houston, Texas. And so this is a position description here, and what I did is I copied and pasted it and I put it into generative AI, and these are the keywords that came out. So design of projects, modifying and reviewing production drawings, designing environmental components for project needs, research, client presentations, and then performing field inspections. And this is going to look different with every different position description that are out there, but it gives you a really good idea by using generative AI this way to find the keywords to really know what they're specifically looking for. What's also nice is a lot of times if you're applying for really similar positions, let's say you're wanting to do a lot of civil or environmental engineer positions, the keywords are going to be really similar on a lot of your positions, and so you won't have to rewrite a resume every single time, which is nice. Okay, so that's how you find keywords for a resume. To get through an applicant tracking system. But we also really need to talk about what kind of format is friendly for an applicant tracking system, because an ATS can only read certain kinds of resumes. So we want to make sure you have the correct format. So this right here is a really popular template that I see from a lot of students and is absolutely not good. So for example, the main thing that the ATS won't be able to read, you see there's two columns. So there's one column that says skill, honors, awards, language, and then interests. And then she has all of her experience over here on the right-hand side. An applicant tracking system can't read columns like this. They also can't see pictures, and all those little icons you see by her email address and then by her location, there's like little graphic icons. Applicant tracking system cannot read that. And if you notice in the background, she has some swirly stuff going on. Applicant tracking system gets really confused by that kind of stuff. So we really want to make it nice and easy to read. So here's a applicant tracking system friendly resume. You notice everything goes from left to right. You see the lab skills up there. There are two columns there, but they're right next to each other, so an applicant tracking system can read it. So this is the format that we highly recommend you look at. If you go to the CALS Career Services website, all of our resumes samples that we have there are applicant tracking system friendly. So please make sure to check out that. Okay, some other tips and tricks that you want to make sure you have for an applicant tracking system friendly resume. Abbreviations can get missed. You don't know what the recruiter has put into the applicant tracking system. It could be either the full words, or it could just be the abbreviation. So make sure you're writing out the full words and then the abbreviation in parentheses at the end. Like I mentioned earlier, graphs, columns, and pictures cannot be read by an applicant tracking system, so just don't use them. Searching by location is very standard among applicant tracking systems. So you want to make sure to include your city, your state, and your zip code. We'll talk a little bit later if you are not originally from the Wisconsin area or you want to get out of Wisconsin, what to include for that. And then also you always want to submit your resume as a PDF. We have no control over what kind of operating system that the computer uses, but PDF, if you do it that way, you can ensure that your format is what the applicant tracking system, what you want it to look like is what the applicant tracking system is going to see. Okay, so once you get through the applicant tracking system, then is when an actual human will look at your resume. And at that point, they give about 1.5 to a 3-minute review, and they're still looking for keywords in that sense. So even though it gets to a human, it's still a really short amount of time that you have to get your resume to have your resume showcase to the employer that you're worth having an interview with. So focusing on those keywords, again, are very, very important. Okay, so we're about to get to the nuts and bolts of how to make your resume great, but I just want to throw it out there that it's really great to have a general and then a tailored version of your resume. So a general version of your resume is pretty much a kitchen sink document. It has everything that you've ever done in your college career. If you are a freshman or a sophomore, then you can keep some stuff in high school, but once you get to your junior, senior year, then you really want to make sure that you're having mostly college level stuff on your resume. But what I mean by this is a resume should really only be 1 page. The kind of rule of thumb is if you have 10 years of experience or an additional degree like a master's or a PhD, then you can have a 2nd page on your resume. So a lot of employers, especially for entry-level positions, will only look at that 1st page. So it's really great and really important to get all your really important information on that 1st page. But having a general version where you just keep everything on there means you can choose and pick what are the examples that have the most keywords to get you into that interview seat and make sure you have a really tailored document. So it's kind of a main and then picking and choosing what you need to make it your best bet for getting into that interview seat. Okay, so let's go with the nuts and bolts. For the first part of the resume, you actually have obviously you have your heading on top. So you want your name to be big and bold, right up there on the top of the page. Usually size 14 or size 16 font is good. Your email, make sure it's professional. So this is where your wis.edu email is great. If you're graduating soon, then going over to a professional sounding Gmail or whatever your service of choice is good too. If you're gonna, I would recommend putting your phone on there because sometimes they do call. But in that sense, if you're gonna put your phone number on there, you wanna make sure you have a very professional sounding voicemail message. And then for address, like I said before, you want to have your city, your state, and your zip code. So for example, on the bottom here, Jane Doe has a present and then a permanent address. So maybe they're originally from San Diego, California. I want to showcase that they're wanting to move to California. And then we have John Doe on the side, which has Madison, Wisconsin 53706. So for that, it's okay to have that. But let's say you're originally from, I don't know, Minnesota, but you want to move to New Jersey. So then if you're basing most of your job search in the New Jersey area, you can put New Jersey, the city in New Jersey, and then whatever the zip code is to showcase that you're willing to move. Okay, next, an objective statement is something that's important for engineering majors to have. It's a kind of what they're looking for. It's generally really, really important to have at the career fair. That is like 100% you need to have it for the career fair. Other times we hear from engineering employers that they would like to have it, but sometimes you don't need to have it on there. It's kind of up to you, but I'd probably recommend doing it. For an objective statement, you want to talk about the type of position you're looking for, whether it's full-time or an internship, your industry or the position of interest that you're actually applying for, and then the ideal start date. So for example, seeking summer of 20 whatever, environmental engineering internship. Pretty straightforward. Okay, so next you have your name, your objective statement, and then your education section underneath. And that's when you want to write out the University of Wisconsin and your degree. So don't use an acronym like UW-Madison, make it fancy. Include your GPA if it's above a 3.0. And this is where you can list relevant coursework if you don't have as much experience, or if you really want to showcase that you have a unique educational background that you got here at UW-Madison. So in the example here, so University of Wisconsin-Madison, getting a Bachelor of Science, expected May of whenever, or if you're getting it in August or in December, that's when you want to put it. Your major, biological systems engineering, and then a specialization, and here we have natural resources and environmental engineering, and a GPA of 3.0 of a 4.0. There are some institutions that use a 5.0 scale, so it's good to put down as a 4.0 scale just in case someone doesn't know. And here we have someone who used some related coursework such as irrigation and drainage, conservation of aquatic resources, small watershed engineering, and principles of landscape ecology. And so this person is trying to showcase that they are kind of a water person, so showcasing that they're really interested in working in water, wetlands, like that sort of stuff. Okay, then we come on from the education to the experience section of your resume. And in your experience section, you can include so much information. You can include part-time work, summer jobs you did, summer internships, research, major class projects, student orgs you were a part of, academic design projects you did as a part of coursework, independent international travel, study abroad, volunteering, athletic participation, really runs the gamut. That you can put it on there. As long as you have transferable skills that you gain from that experience, you can absolutely put it on your resume. Okay, so experience sections. This really is the most important section of your resume. This is really where you can pack a lot of those keywords into it. And for every single experience you have on your resume, regardless if it's paid, unpaid, a student org, a class project you did, anything like that, you need to include 4 pieces of information. So the name of the organization, your title, and that could be student, the dates you worked or the dates you were part of a class, and you want to use months and years and not seasons. An applicant tracking system cannot read seasons, but it can read the months and years. And then the location of the organization and descriptive lines after that. So here is an example of what that would look like. So the title is a design intern, and the organization was Solar Design LLC in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, and from January 20-something to present. And the descriptive lines: determine structural feasibility for potential solar design by performing a structural assessment, predicted amount of energy from solar panels required for the proposed design by investigating historical energy usage data, completed a solar resource assessment to obtain expected solar output data, and then selected system specifications based on financial limitations, capacity of solar panel system, and available cutting-edge technology. So if this was a classroom experience, for your title it would be student, the name of the organization would be the name of the class, and it wouldn't be like Chemistry 301 or something like that. It would be the actual name of the course. The location of the organization, University of Wisconsin-Madison, and then the dates that you were in that class. If you were talking about like an academic project you did or things you did during an academic course. Okay, so about titles. Again, like I said, you can say researcher or you can say student for titles, but sometimes it gets a little funny, especially if you've worked on a farm your entire life, and how do you talk about that experience? So some different ways that you can manage your titles. There's ways to describe common ambiguous titles. So for farm work, using farm hand, farm assistant, a herdsperson. For student hourly work, maybe a marketing assistant, a research technician, or a team lead. And as a student, maybe as a part of the student project you were a part of, you really led it, or maybe you were the person who made sure that everyone knew what they were doing, so the communication lead, or maybe it was really independent research that you did as a part of a classroom experience. Something to know, if your title does not match your duties and what you actually did during your experience, some people choose to use their official title and then a working title. So for example, farmhand and then mechanic afterwards, or student hourly and then research assistant in the side. Again, this is another way to get those keywords into there to showcase that like a skill based is a part of your keyword, but just make sure to check in with your supervisor that it's cool that you do that. Nothing looks worse if maybe that supervisor is your reference and they say, oh, so when Jane Doe was a research assistant, what was that like? And the person's like, a research assistant? No, they were a student hourly. So just make sure that you check in with your supervisor if you're going to do this, just to make sure they're cool with it. Usually they are. Okay, and next comes writing descriptive lines. This is a really important part of your resume. And a part of that is you want to use action verbs. So this is where you talk about all the cool things that you've done, all the skills that you've gained. So you want to start each bullet point with a strong action verb to convey a sense of accomplishment, proactivity. So here's some examples that I see from a lot of BSE type resumes. Designed, evaluated, monitored, optimized, and implemented. You want to quantify your achievements. Whenever possible, include numbers to quantify your achievements and give a clear picture of your impact. Pretend the person reading your resume is literally 5 years old and they have no idea what you're talking about. So you really want to put those details in there. So reduce water consumption by 25%. Supervised team of 4 engineers. Be very specific. So provide specific details about your responsibilities and achievements. Again, this is to make sure, like pretend they're 5 and they have no idea. So develop 5+ sustainable water management plan for urban areas. And then highlight your relevant skills. These are the keywords that you checked when you put your position description through generative AI to find keywords. Make sure you're putting them in there. It's really, really important, and how you use them effectively during your experiences. You can even use generative AI to check your bullet points to make sure that they're meeting everything that you want them to meet. So for example, an initial prompt to enter is you want to insert like copy and paste your resume, but don't include any of your personal identifying information. So your name, your phone number, email, that kind of stuff, don't include that, but it just include like the bullet points and the sections. And ask ChatGPT or Copilot, how should I strengthen the bullet points in my resume? And it's going to really help you figure out, okay, you need to include more quantifiable things here. What's some detail that you can include here to really help? Here's some additional prompts that you can use. You can put your resume in there. It's like, identify any vague or abstract ideas in the bullets of my resume, just to see. Also, you can copy and paste the position description and then put in your resume. And this is especially helpful for your general like kitchen sink resume. Which of the experiences on my resume are strongest and most relevant for this job position? So it can help you make that more tailored position. Something that I would really advise you not to do is use generative AI just to write all your bullets, because that doesn't get personal, and then it's really, I mean, it's not, you can just kind of tell, because I read a lot of resumes and you can tell when the student has just used generative AI because there's not any details in there, because generative AI doesn't know all the cool stuff that you've done. So it's really important to write them first and then use generative AI to finesse it and help you get down to the specifics that you need in order to get through an applicant tracking system. Again, we're using generative AI because it's AI that's looking at your resume. So let's use AI to make sure your resume gets through it, right? So tit for tat, sort of. Okay, so section headings. This is how, so we have all that lovely experience that you've created, and then you need section headings in there to kind of orient the reader. And a lot of students here fall into the trap of saying like paid, like professional experience, paid experience, and then volunteer experience. So all the like the student orgs that are part of, that sort of stuff. And I would really suggest that you don't do that, just because this is another way you can get more keywords on your resume. So instead of saying like work experience and volunteer experience, saying research experience or leadership experience or engineering experience or project management experience. There's so many different cool keywords you can use to first increase your keyword amount on the applicant tracking system, but also showcase what are the cool things that you bring to the table. So in this sense, it's totally fine to include paid and unpaid experience within the same category as long as they're showcasing the same skill set. And then also similar experiences can go under specific skill-based section headings. Just something that you really want to make sure that you're doing is say having everything in that section heading in reverse chronological order. So in your research experience, the most recent research experience at top, and then goes down to the least recent at the bottom within that category. And then a leadership experience, the most recent leadership experience, that goes down to the least recent. So reverse chronological order. So the must for your resume, you want to make sure that you have no typos, you want to make sure everything is consistent, and you want to make sure everything is relevant to the position that you're applying for. Again, generative AI can really help you make sure that is what you want it to be. And last but not least, please, please, please remember to only include the truth. Everything that you put on your resume is fair game during an interview, and it looks really bad if you don't have really anything to say about something because you lied on your resume. So make sure to tell the truth. And then also remember, do not include personal information on there. And by personal information, I mean a picture, your marital status, your height, your weight, that sort of stuff. Those kinds of things are absolutely appropriate in other countries outside of the United States, but the United States, you do not want to see that. If you are interested in applying for positions outside of the United States, please make an appointment with us in Career Services. We have examples of resumes across the globe and can make sure that you're setting your best foot forward in another country. So come and see us if you're not looking to work domestically here in the United States. Make sure that you have no misspellings, no grammatical errors. With that, it can be really important to have someone else, a third eye, like look at your resume, just to make sure, because sometimes spell check will make sure that all the words are spelled correctly, but maybe it's not the right word that you're wanting to use and you're just missing it as you're looking through it. So have someone else look at it. If you're going to use bold and italics, make sure you're being consistent with it. So don't be inconsistent with font treatment. So if you're going to bold one of your titles, just bold all of your titles. Or if you're going to italicize your one date, just italicize all of the dates. A weird thing about resumes is there's no personal pronouns. It's just a rule that's out there. So no I, our, we, my, mine, those kinds of things are just not used on resumes. It's just part of the rule. And then again, avoid the use of abbreviations. Make sure to write it out, and then if you want to use the abbreviation, put it in parentheses afterwards. And slang or jargon, I probably wouldn't recommend putting on your resume either, because sometimes, especially for large Fortune 500 companies, they have HR people looking at resumes and that 3-minute review, and so maybe they don't know as much about engineering as you do, and so if you use slang on there, they're just not going to understand it, or jargon. So make sure you're spelling everything out. Again, pretend they are 5 years old. So as I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of really great resume examples on our on our webpage, excuse me. So please check out those resumes. They're really wonderful to get different ideas about different formats that are applicant tracking friendly, applicant tracking system friendly, and I really hope that they would help you. Again, please come and see us whenever you want. We are available on Starfish to meet with students one-on-one to figure out kind of what next best steps are. And also, if you're thinking about maybe doing a co-op, an internship, those kinds of stuff, and just want to make sure that you are on track for getting those experiences, please come and meet with us. We are available all year, spring break, winter break, and summer break. And again, you can use us up to 2 years after you graduate. So if that first job that you get, you're like, ooh, this is not a good fit, we can be here for you to help you find your next best adventure and your career. Thank you so much for having me here today. I hope that you have a wonderful time writing your resume, and I'll see you around. Bye.